kids go to restaurants, and I will also let my kids now, live their lives and not be stuck at home. He's like, well, that's the doctors are telling us that's really bad. I was like, no, the doctors are telling us that kids have like a 0.01% chance of catching this and even a lesser percent chance of dying from it. So at this point, I'm going to let them be.
Who doesn't think this is communist bullshit?
Blue check marks on Twitter, apparently.
But do we all here think? Is there anybody here that's not red pilled on this?
I mean, it's difficult for me to weigh in because I don't have the American perspective. I don't have the American understanding in terms of like experience. I don't have the American experience. Here in Germany, they're used to it. They just lay over and take it. Whatever you throw at them, they just lay over and take it. So there's nobody out in the streets rioting. Nobody's complaining. Actually, there was a riot in Hamburg. No, it was Antifa rioting in Hamburg because they want refugees, Syrian refugees brought from Greece to Hamburg to avoid getting corona. So they're rioting in the opposite. They want to bring refugees in to protect them from corona. So that's the only rioting going on here.
Anything for the cause, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's just a totally different experience. Americans, Americans don't have second gear. It's like they have, you know what I mean? They're either in first gear or they're in sixth gear. There's nothing in between. You know what I mean?
We either don't care, or we're burning our own buildings down.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm wondering.
By the way,
I'm wondering how much the rest of the world is buying at hook, line, and sinker.
Apparently not much, because Europe's starting to open up. I mean, they're playing soccer in Germany again, aren't they? Aren't they, Luke?
Yeah, Bundesliga's playing again. They're not playing with crowds, but yeah, they're playing again. And Germany's pretty much open. On Monday, the gym, or on Tuesday, it's a public holiday on Monday, so on Tuesday the gyms will open back up. And then at that point, everything will be opened except for like public pools and lakes and stuff like that. And it'll be completely back open again. In some respects, I think Germany had a little bit more of a rational response. They at least identified some sort of target at which they were aiming so that they could let up from the lockdown at a certain point. They drug it on way longer than they should have, in my opinion. It went weeks and weeks longer. The target was a R naught of 0.7, and it fell below that like a month and a half ago. So they could have opened up long ago, but they're opening up again. But America's just different, like, because everything is so politicized. You have the left trying to use this to destroy the country. And then you have the right trying to save the country. So it's here they present a unified front where everyone's trying to do what's right. It's so bizarre, dude. I would have never experienced this or thought about this unless I had lived in Europe. But it's like the media in America teamed up as an unholy alliance with the left. That because they lack the principles which would be required to have a healthy response to something like this, leads to necessary destruction, because to them destruction is good because the political climate currently does not favor them. It's really bizarre.
I'm wondering if the world buys into it pretty thoroughly. Maybe China played like the Hong Kong gambit. They wanted to create this panic and everybody look away, and then they take over Hong Kong with coronavirus. And it just went further than they thought it was going to. People are just dumber and more gullible. They didn't realize they were going to shut down Europe and half of Ecuador and everything. They didn't know it was going to go that far. They were just trying to take over Southeast Asia and Hong Kong, and that's a theory I have, because like Germany panicked and then they back up and they go, wait, this is a panic. And Sweden never panicked, and so I'm wondering how much of it was just we're so stupid and gullible in Twitter today and everybody's just so safety-minded that China's hoax just got a little out of control. It went viral. A communist hoax went viral. What do you think about that hypothesis?
Yeah, by the way, before we go on, welcome Shayna. My sister just joined. So, yeah, I mean,
I have a buddy that works in healthcare, and he is seeing the effects of this and how many people are in the hospital and how many people are, like, have died and what it's done to certain families and the ravages that it does to people that are catching it. So I don't believe it's a hoax, but what I believe, instead of being a hoax, it's just that the media has perpetuated it to being so much worse than it really is. And by being locked down as long as we have, we're hurting our herd immunity, and we're hurting our ability to, get immunization from it naturally. Normally with the flu, you'd be around it, and if you didn't catch it, you'd still be a carrier, but you would gain immunity from it by having it and then getting over it. Same thing with COVID. Most people believe, and it has been tested, but it hasn't been 100% verified that it's a one and done virus. Like, once you get it, you can't ever get it again. That was widely distributed at the beginning of this situation, but it hasn't been officially confirmed in lab testing as far as I know. But I do believe it's a real virus. I do believe that this is honestly hurting people and it's honestly impacting folks, but it's not impacting nearly the number of people that the media is making it out to. And the whole reason to go down on lockdown in the first place was to keep the hospitals from being overrun. That we wanted to flatten the curve enough to keep the hospitals from being, just completely out of beds and completely out of resources. But we've gotten to the point now where all the local hospitals are having to lay off people because they don't have enough people coming in to warrant the number of staff that they have currently employed. So they, like all the other businesses, are having to lay off people or furlough people just because there's not enough work and there's not enough income coming in to warrant paying them.
Yeah, and it's like Luke said, because we set out on this initially that there was going to be this 15-day window where we were going to comply with these orders because we wanted to flatten the curve. We wanted to it wasn't going to reduce the number of deaths. It wasn't going to reduce the total number of cases. What it was going to do was give healthcare more time to prepare and react to the situation. Once the left realized that, states like New York, California, Washington, Oregon, even New Mexico, which God help my friends over in New Mexico, once they realized that, hey, look, people are complying with this, we now have them under control. It quickly went from, okay, we need to flatten the curve to, we need to have a cure. Now it's, we can't open until we have a cure. Now it's, we can't open until we know for certain nobody will die. Well, people are going to die. That's irregardless of the situation.
Yeah,
regardless.
I grant that it's a real virus. I can grant that, but AIDS was a real virus. That doesn't mean that there weren't insane panics around it. But this is not just a virus with a panic. It's a huge hoax, I think, being pushed by the CCP. But my question is, how big did they want it to be? Did they really think it was going to go worldwide, or did they just think it was going to scare everybody enough in and around China? You remember the lady falling on her face, right? We have not had people go catatonic while they're walking down the street and fall on their face from this disease, but that's what they were spreading as the news at the beginning. And do you remember welding people's doors shut because it was so insanely contagious and it was just out of control, so they were doing anything to keep people in their buildings? That was all fake. That was all made by communists to scare us. That was all fake. So,
yeah.
How far did they think it was going to go? Did they really think they were going to get the whole fucking world to shut down? I grant it's a real virus, but they're just pushing it as far as they can. And did they release it from that laboratory up there? That's, very possible.
That's a good question, because I think I agree with you, Brandon, that the hoax is not whether the virus exists or not. Because, the virus exists. We know that. The hoax is, how did it get here? When did it get here? And what is our reaction to it? Because go ahead. Because
I was going to say the hoax is the response to the virus, which is the last thing you said.
Yeah. Well, I think we got to point out that people are now, being reported to have antibodies that, they were sick back in November, December here in the U.S. So the virus was already here. And that people, they found that a case in France of a person who died in December that they went back and tested that person again and found that he was positive. So the earliest reported case in France is February that I know of. And now we have a known case from December. So when did it actually arrive?
The president of Nigeria put some apples in for testing, and they tested positive for COVID. And he said there's something going on.
Yeah, and we've had cats and dogs and sheep.
I frankly don't believe it. I don't trust these people farther than I can throw them. And the numbers went from 60,000 to 38,000 in one day. One day, the FDA said, "Oh, the actual confirmed cases are 38,000." Why were you doing that? Because people were snooping around and they didn't like, what was going on, and so you corrected it. I wonder if they would have corrected it if nobody had been snooping around. So.
Yeah,
I don't trust any of them any further than I can throw them. Not a single bit. You say there's a confirmed case here or there, and there was a guy that was dead that was confirmed to have it. I believe that as much as the apples in wherever that guy, the president of Zimbabwe or Nigeria or something.
Yeah, agreed. Shayna, what are your thoughts on this? We want to get you in on this.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah,
Okay.
you sound good.
To be honest, I'm just kind of tired of talking about it. I mean, like, Texas is opening up, and it's like, let's move on. I mean, it was here before. It's going to be here for the rest of our lives. Yes, it's contagious, so just be careful. Back to the Europe topic, we chatted with our exchange student who had to go back to Spain. She's from Madrid, and she told us today they're talking about putting everybody in Madrid back in quarantine because the number of cases have risen again. And so therefore it's maybe not safe to go out again. They were really only letting people out 2 hours a day, and it was staggered based on, I don't know, your last name or location or something. And, so she was literally in a 750 square foot apartment with her family of 4 for 24 hours a day, except they finally started letting them go out between 8 and 10 o'clock at night. So
that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, like, unless you have a dog that you need to walk, you stay in your apartment. And so, but I mean, she's like, people just do it. I mean, I think it goes back to just this control issue. And, it's not going to fly much longer in Texas. Like, the rage is starting to get out of control.
That's what makes me laugh. Americans.
Somebody
I
told me,
love
I had a friend over a second ago, and she's like, "Oh, I heard that Texas is about to say you don't have to wear masks anymore," and we're like, "Woo! We're gonna light it up,"
It's gonna be like in Iran, People are gonna start posting those like hijab videos of the women like shedding their hijabs, It's gonna be like that on social media.
There's some little local business here in central Connecticut in the belly of the beast, if you can believe it. And I'm on one of these gossip talks for my local little town, and some lady went in there. She says, "I went into this sandwich shop, and none of the employees were wearing masks." And her post lit up because the people in this town are like 50-50. And I'm surprised how many of them are like, don't buy the communist propaganda, lady. It's your choice. Wear one if you don't. Go to another place if you want. And,
can y'all see the picture? This is a friend of Luke and mine who said, "This is my mask," and it's basically like a Mardi Gras mask with all these feathers, and her mouth and nose are completely exposed.
Well, Kyle and I talked about it last night with Alyssa Milano taking the picture of herself in a crocheted mask.
It wasn't a picture, it was a video. He was sitting there lecturing people.
It's like, you guys need to wear a mask. These are for your safety. We need to have these on. And she's literally, it's crocheted. It's like, lady, do you not understand what you're doing right now? Like, you're an idiot.
Did you see the meme of the guy trying to stop mosquitoes with a chain link fence?
No, but I'm sure it's equivalent.
That's what Melissa Milano was doing, yeah.
Penn and Taylor have a video from a few years back about how immunizations help save lives and don't cause autism, and that's kind of the same exact theory behind it. It's like you can put up a wire mesh and you'll block some, but not all. But you can put up one by one wire mesh, you're gonna stop some, but not all. But if you put in like a one of those fine meshes, now you're stopping 99.9%. You still have a little bit get through, but you're not going to have nearly as much get through as you did before.
Yeah, I mean the masks are a thing for hospitals to stop from infecting patients who don't need any extra risks at all.
And that's the N95 PPE equipment that they have, and that actually blocks stuff from coming in and out. These little masks that are available to the public, they're really not good for keeping things in. They're only coming into your body. They're only good for things coming out of your body. So in reality, if you're wearing a mask, it's only like 30% effective from people out and about. But as long as the people that are sick are wearing it, now it comes down to like 5% transmissibility. And if both people are wearing it, it goes down to like 1.5 transmissibility. But if the person that's sick is holding the trombone, it don't matter if the other person's wearing a mask or not. Now it's 0% probability.
Yeah, I feel what she said. Sick of talking about the masks. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I just keep going back to this. It just cracks me up, the American response. It's just so binary. It's...
If China were going to start some sort of a hoax, they would want it to come with a little trinket that they could sell in mass numbers. And they wouldn't want it to be too complex of a trinket because they'd want it to be easy to produce and not too expensive. Like a little patch of cloth with some elastic on it would be brilliant and cause a world shortage in this little trinket that they manufacture almost all of. I think it's brilliant.
And their people were caught going to other nations, buying up all the supply for that trinket and sending it back home so they could create a shortage.
Yeah, they created a shortage and they caused a panic by doing that kind of stuff, and all for a virus that's no more dangerous than the flu.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've now seen that the CDC has revised its mortality rate to 4% or 0.4% for people under the age of 65, and that goes down as you get younger. So the younger you are, the less likely the mortality rate. But that's also only including symptomatic cases. If you then include asymptomatic cases, which the CDC in that report estimated 35% of cases to be asymptomatic, which seems lower than actual, but that's their. If you add that in, then it's 0.24% mortality amongst all cases. So that's
and
more.
And if you factor in, I'm sure if you factor in people with pre-existing conditions and this sort of thing, I mean, I'm sure that plummets precipitously to something which is almost negligible.
Well, if you don't stick 6.6% of the population, that's the most vulnerable people in the nation, with actively infected COVID patients in nursing homes, that's 42% of our deaths right now in the United States are people out of nursing homes. They represent 0.6% of our population.
Everybody grasps why they did that, right? I mean, it's obvious why they would take a COVID patient and put him in a nursing home on purpose, because they want a panic, they want deaths, they want it to get out of control. They want it to be a bad situation.
Yeah,
I'd argue that they know that elderly people are by and large more likely to vote conservative, Republican. And you kill off a large segment of the elderly population right before an election, right before they would vote for a presidential race.
And
that seems convenient, right?
And they cost the state money, too.
Well, but, I mean, New York's just going to ask for a handout like they are now.
Well, but I don't backfired on them because the only states that really did it, and I'm sorry, Luke, to cut you off, the only states that are really guilty of doing it are blue states, and their population votes blue primarily. So, in effect,
their elderly populations. It's the younger population. Their elderly populations still vote overwhelmingly red. That's why we see the flight to Florida still results in a red state in Florida, because it's the elderly population that's flying to Florida. It's not the younger population.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, that's too. This is beyond my. To me, that's too conspiracy. I think it's much simpler than that. I think that this happened, and they're doing the old Rahm Emanuel playbook, which is, always. What is it? Never let
a crisis go to waste.
Yeah, I think that's it's just nothing more than that. It's like this happened. They're latching on to it, and they're running.
It's actually Rahm Emanuel's brother who said that, not Rahm Emanuel.
Okay. Well, yeah, there you go. I think it's no more complicated than that. People try to, in my opinion, people always latch onto these things and try to overcomplicate it and read into it and this and that. And I generally find that at the end of the day, when the dust clears, it was always much simpler than anybody, than everyone was speculating about.
Well, if it is just an opportunistic power grab, then how do we tell them that we want our country back and they can't do that? I think the guys up in, was it Michigan, that a bunch of white guys went in with guns and took over the legislative building?
They didn't take it over. I mean, they simply went in there and protested. It was peaceful. No shots were fired. Nobody was injured. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was damaged. And let's correct the narrative there. It wasn't just white guys. There were people of many races in that group. It wasn't. That's the narrative. Oh, these guys went into this Capitol building, but they're not thugs. But the people burning down Minneapolis are thugs.
Now,
the people burning down Minneapolis are thugs.
I'll accept either narrative. If you want to say there were black guys there, that's fine. But the media always crops their pictures out. So
they're doing a great job of that.
Yeah. And there was that group of rednecks protecting some stores, and there were black guys and Mexicans there with them, and they cropped them out.
Yeah, I was about to say, even Washington Examiner, which is generally not they're not generally a shit lib rag. Even them, they were like, oh, 2 white guys protecting the store, blah, blah, blah. And they didn't even crop the black guys out. The black guys are standing right behind them with guns, but it's 2 white guys,
I sent Ross a TikTok earlier today from Minneapolis. It's a large number of black guys with weapons standing in front of storefronts that say, black-owned business, and they're sitting there and protecting them. And the guy's like, run up on us and see what happens. The rioters are staying away from those areas because they know they're not going to be able to intimidate or force their way through that line of people with those weapons, because they don't have any ill intent in their heart by standing there. But if you come at them, they are going to protect themselves.
Yeah. My whole thing about Corona is, like, I think the thing that people are forgetting is, like, when you make a choice, you're making a choice at the expense of all of the alternative choices. And when you think about the lockdown, all of the alternative choices, well, when they made this choice, the expense was all of the businesses that it destroyed. And so now we're in a situation where the lockdown, and I think I tweeted this out, and I've said this on HSP as well, like, the lockdown has killed more, the response to coronavirus has killed more businesses than coronavirus has killed people at this point, by a large margin. And these are the things that I don't think are being considered. You have to consider the context, you have to consider everything, and you have to consider all of the choices available to you so as to determine the best choice. But I think there's another issue as well here, which is that we're also dealing with rights. And one thing I wish I would have seen, I liked the fact that Trump relegated a lot of the decision-making to the states. But as is the case in the Civil War, when they went in and they said, well, no, like, slavery doesn't jive with individual rights. We're going to war over this. I would like to see the federal government step in and play that role again. We're not in slavery, but I would like to see them step in to Rhode Island and Michigan and these other places that have these absurd, total violation of rights, destroying businesses, and the federal government step in and play the role they're actually supposed to play and say, okay, we're stepping in and protecting individual rights now, because that's the whole purpose of the federal government. When it comes to the relationship between state governments and the federal government, I think that's what's missing right now, and I think Trump has kind of like hinted at that. But I would like to see a more of an emphasis on that.
Yeah, Trump's pretty good. I don't know if we'll ever have another president as good as him, but he's pushing that sort of angle and trying to privatize schools and weaken the unions and
Yeah.
I mean, he's pushing every direction. On the environmentalist direction, he's just stopped the EPA, shut them down.
Yeah.
And
Dude, there's so many haters on Trump, like on the right, and it's to the point where I can't even fathom these people as being on the right at this point.
they're leftists.
Well, I think a lot of them are not actually on the right. I think a lot of them are utilizing, because they want the headline, oh, Republicans hate Trump. They want that to be the headline. They want that to be what people believe, so that they can then go to say to independent voters, look, even Republicans can't stand it, right? And it's like, what's your name over at the Washington Post? She is a conservative. Jennifer Rubin. She considers herself a conservative reporter. She is listed in her byline as the conservative reporter of the Washington Post. There is nothing about her reporting in any way, shape, or form that would idealize her as a conservative.
I wonder that's got to be like if you're the conservative reporter at Washington Post, that's got to be like a form of punishment, like a punitive action that the WAPO took. You know, it's like, oh, you were late to work today, so you're the new conservative reporter at WAPO.
Yeah, I sent Kyle a link the other day. There was a guy on Politico, and he's like taking the counterpoint that Trump didn't handle this horribly, and literally the entire article is. A reporter here challenged me to take the counterpoint and actually prove that Trump hasn't done as bad of a job, but I'm not going to do it. So what I'm going to do is open up a public thread where you guys can comment and tell me what you think. But here's this long set of rules that I'm going to set to basically shit any post you put right out the window. That you basically, and one of the points was you cannot deny any of the mainstream media's reporting on how Donald Trump has handled this. It's like, well, then there you go. You've got your answer. Why even ask the question?
Yeah. If we want to shift gears really quick, Brandon slayed a debate. Brandon used to post content, and I watched pretty much all of it. And Brandon used to post a lot of really good content years and years ago. The Cropper, it was the Cropper Lyceum. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Where you talked about Greek and...
It was on Mr. Cropper. But now they made me rename it my own name, Brandon Cropper. So, but it was my Mr. Cropper channel.
Yeah, he used to post like a lot of history about the Greeks and the Romans, and then you were doing some content there for a while and kind of put it on ice for the last few months. And then suddenly I see this debate pop up in my feed, and it's a Brandon Cropper debate, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Cropper's a good debater. So I click on it, and every time I click on a video, I immediately go down to the comments, because the comments will tell you everything you need to know about it right away. They're like, oh, the first 30 minutes is boring. Go to like minute 34. That's when it gets underway, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, within the first couple of minutes, I was like, damn, this is really good. So Brandon, I have a question. Who were those dudes that you were debating? Like, I don't think they're big names, but like politically, I could not for the life of me understand their politics. I heard one of the guys say he was an anarchist. That could mean many different things. And I kind of got the vibe that they were not like the Rothbardian anarcho-capitalists, but more like the sort of anarcho-communists, anarcho-syndicalists, anarcho-socialists, this sort of thing.
Yeah. Anarcho-socialist, I think, is what they fit as. So basically, edgy leftists. You know, they were dumb as hell, and they didn't know anything, as you could tell by listening to it. One of them made a video series about Ayn Rand called "Why Ayn Rand Was a Complete Piece of Trash and Wrote Utter Garbage," Part 1, 2, and 3. And so I went there and left nasty comments and said, debate me. And he replied, so we debated, and that was him. So that's the kind of idiot it takes to make a video against Ayn Rand.
Yeah. I thought you slayed it. There's a big middle portion which I'm missing. I've listened to like probably the first. I think it's about 2 hours. And I've listened to like the first 45 minutes and like the last 30 minutes. So there's like when I barbecue tomorrow night, I'm going to go out and finish the rest of it. But
now they put up their link to their version, which includes a 20-minute discussion at the end after I signed off. And that is in a link on part 1 of the video, so you can get to it now. I just put it there an hour ago.
Yeah, I clicked on it. I tried to find it, but anyways.
Okay.
All right, so Kyle stepped away for a minute. Ross stepped away for a minute. John Nelson joined. John, welcome. I don't think you're going to be on because Ross is controlling the live stream, like video setup. So it's probably just going to be audio for you right now.
No, it's set up to capture the entire
I see
meeting.
his camera.
So whoever's in the meeting should show up in the on the stream.
Oh, cool. All right, John, but you're muted right now, so we can't hear you.
John, I didn't recognize you without your hat.
Still muted, John.
There we
There
go.
you go.
All right, there you go. We got you.
How's it going?
Good, sir, and yourself?
It's going good.
Yeah,
Good to hear.
Just to introduce John. I met John, and this is actually a good moment to introduce this little series we have coming out. And Shayna, I'm so sorry, we're going to include you a little bit more here soon.
Fine.
She's looking pretty.
Yeah. We're an equal opportunity stream here. Okay, so yeah, just to introduce John. When Cropper was putting out a bunch of content, I saw John like commenting a lot, and John, I don't even remember how we started chatting, but
I think it was when you were on Mr. Cropper's show. I think it was through that video.
maybe, yeah. Yeah, and we started chatting. I don't even remember if it was like over Facebook or Discord or something. I don't even remember. And we've actually recorded what is it, 6 parts that we did, like 6 1-hour shows that we've already done for an idea that John has. I'll leave it at that because it's sort of like the Tiger King of philosophy. So. So I'll just leave it at that. But anyways, I have to produce it. I've been dragging my feet. I'm so sorry, John. I've been dragging my feet on producing it. I've been honestly really, Corona has blown a hole in my, I've said this on HSP, it's blown a hole in the side of my productivity boat. This is just like every day, the moment I get working, Jessica wants to go do something, and which is fine. I'm not complaining. I love being, around and doing things with my wife, but it's just, I normally have evenings and nights in time at which I can work on Zero Gravity Media, and Corona has just completely destroyed that. So I'm trying to find time to produce those shows and put them out. But anyways, John, intellectually, if I were to try and describe you intellectually, it's somewhere in the middle of, it's somewhere between Ayn Rand and Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Sort of a blend of the two, if you will. So Kyle and Shayna, just so y'all know. Yeah. So welcome, John. Thanks for joining, man.
Thank you. I thought about wearing a mask since we're not 6 feet away.
Don't shut up, and we just moved on.
Yeah, we just moved on from Corona. Let's not go back.
Not go back.
Yeah.
Fair.
Shayna, did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
So, no, not really. I'm listening to HSP. I think I'm a couple of weeks behind, so I'm catching up. But I'm on your episode now where you were talking about the runner that got shot, and then given everything that's going on right now too, it's just interesting, the race relations in the U.S. right now. But
Must be an election year.
yeah,
Yeah.
run everything to see what sticks.
Yeah, I think that's the most disgusting thing about it. I mean, these people on the left, like, they pretend to care. They pretend like they're the compassionate ones, and they're the ones that are going to solve all the problems. And it's like, again, like going back to this Corona thing and Rahm Emanuel's brother who made that statement about never let a crisis go to waste. It's like, these people are just latching onto this. This is an opportunity for them. And again, like I've explained this on HSP many times, like if you have bad premises, then you latch on to negative outcomes as being opportunistic. Like take global warming, climate change, for example. Like if you're, ask somebody who really is a global warming, climate change sort of advocate, if you will, quote unquote. Like ask them, like, would you be happy if you found out that you were wrong? And if the answer is no, then and it won't be. They'll say, but I'm not wrong. They'll deny it, but I'm not wrong. But I'm not wrong. But if you were, would you be happy to learn that you were wrong? They cannot honestly answer that question with a yes.
It's interesting you put it that way, because I put a post up that said COVID is the new environmentalism. Environmentalism was the new socialism, because socialism went out of style, so they rebranded it green, and everybody was getting a little doubtful about green, so now it's COVID. And if that's true, then you have the way that you worship COVID is, they've got all these things where you worship COVID. It's a religion. And
Yeah.
they had this thing where you worshipped, if you were green, you had to worship in certain ways. You had to bring your own grocery bag. You couldn't use plastic grocery bags if you were truly green. And you had to get an electric car, which is much worse for the environment than gas cars, but you had to do it. And so they had this way that you worship it. And COVID is a new religion, and it's socialism rebranded. And it's amazing how close it is to socialism. In Russia, everybody had lots of money, scads of money, but there was nothing to buy. And if you wanted to get into a restaurant, the meal would cost you $5, but it cost you $100 to get in the door.
Yeah, there was I love this. I've been listening to John Ridpath. I think it was back in the '90s. Put out a 4-part series about Marxism, where he described the history of Marxism in one. It's like 4 1-hour lectures where he did the history of Marxism, then he did the metaphysics and epistemology of Marxism, and then 2 others. And I've been listening to him on repeat because I want to absorb everything. So I've been, like, every time I barbecue, I listen to one, and then I listen to it again the next day, and then I listen to another one like 2 or 3 times, and I just do this over and over and over again. But one of the things that he says in his lecture about, so Marxism derives a lot of its philosophy from Hegelianism. A lot of it comes from Hegelian philosophy. And one of the things that it drew from Hegel was inherent contradictions everywhere. Everything is a contradiction. Life is a contradiction. Politics is a contradiction. Economics everything is a contradiction. And he described one of his students as saying that premise is the most pregnant of ideas because you can adapt that to anything. And then he went on to describe how this premise of contradictions everywhere has been able to have been adapted to Cambodia, to South America, to Central America, to China, to Russia, to everything. And now we're seeing it in the late 20th century, or 21st century rather, having been adapted to environmentalism, and now we're seeing it being adapted to pandemics. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, the left and the Longhorns, and I've maintained this one for a long time. The left and the Longhorns are the best at rebranding and controlling a narrative. That's what they do the best.
Well,
and it's because they control the media that they're able to do so easily and so fluidly, and people are the sheep out there are just so easily bought into it because they're not hearing any other opposing viewpoints. But I wanted to bring up something that Ross actually shared to me earlier today. Did you see the Van Jones rant that he had?
I did not know.
So Van Jones on CNN, been longtime liberal, came out today and said that the white liberal Hillary supporter is actually the worst thing for the black community because of the situation that happened in New York, how quickly that woman was to turn on that black man and threaten to call the cops, and that he was threatening her life. He's like, at least with the Aryans and the KKK people, we know their intentions. But this woman, she had the soft bigotry of lowered expectations, and as soon as a black man was threatening her, she, not I'm trying to think of the word, she weaponized his blackness against him to call the cops and try to get him scared so he would leave her alone.
Having lived in San Francisco, I mean, I lived in San Francisco for 5.5 years. Well, technically, I lived in the heart of San Francisco for 2.5 years, and then I lived just outside San Francisco, where it was a little warmer and nicer, for 2.5 more years. I can tell you that this is a mentality of these cities like Chicago, Manhattan, and San Francisco, and it's. What's the best way to describe it? It is certain categories of people, people of color, women, the gay community, this sort of thing, put up onto a pedestal. They're placed upon a pedestal and then granted carte blanche anything that they want by virtue of being who they are. And it becomes so thoroughly ingrained in them such that when something like this happens, they could not possibly be in the wrong. And then you see all of this. So I don't think it's an act of racism. I think it's an act of entitlement. I think it's such a mentality of entitlement so thoroughly ingrained such that it's all day, every day, walking solipsism. They could not possibly imagine that there's another individual out there who could possibly contradict them.
You know,
Or
you've got to listen to that link I sent you of the debate, because at the end of that, those guys were discussing the fact that Hitler was a socialist. He said he had never heard anybody who actually believed that before, and they were like, "Yeah, I think this guy Cropper actually thinks Hitler was a socialist." He's like, "Yeah, that was amazing, because all my life I've always just say that in a stupid voice, oh, he was a socialist, and just dismiss it. But I think he actually believed Hitler was a socialist, and their mind was just blown."
I mean, he was a social. I mean, he was. I mean, that's the name of their party.
No, he was a Nazi.
Yeah, literally what the party stood for.
No, he was a
Taking people's
Nazi.
guns away.
He was a Nazi. Here's their knockdown, drag-out argument. If you think Hitler was a socialist because his party was the National Socialists, it must confuse you when you order buffalo wings. That's their argument. That's their knockdown, drag-out argument. Because what do you get when you order buffalo wings?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in that case, is North Korea a republic?
North
Because I mean,
Korea...
it's the People's Republic of North Korea.
North Korea would be much more successful if it weren't being held back by trade restrictions from the United States. Basically, United States' fault.
That's their argument.
That's what they say.
Yeah, that's their argument.
Yeah.
My point is that they're, if you look at Hitler's policies, I went through this with a guy who had a Democratic Socialist shirt on out here in the middle of West Texas. He had a, Democratic Socialist shirt on, and I went through it and I said, okay, so you believe in socialism? He goes, yes. So I said, okay, so do you think we should ban guns from every person? He goes, yeah, people shouldn't be allowed to own guns. And I said, do you think there's certain types of speech that should be limited, that we shouldn't be able to say certain things based on certain regulations, that the government should be able to restrict speech? Yes, I think the government should be able to restrict hate speech. Okay, great. Do you think that we need to do more to protect a certain class of people, and we only need to really worry about certain classes of people and not worry about other classes of people? And he goes, yeah, we got to do more for the minorities and others. I said, and do you think every American would be better off if they owned like a small car, like a Volkswagen or a Mercedes? And he's like, man, that would be great if we could do that. And I was like, all right, you're fucking Hitler. You've literally just described the political policies of Hitler.
Yep. And they're so ignorant they don't know it. All they know is Hitler killed Jews and started a war. They have no idea what Germany was about or what the politics of Nazism is.
Yeah. They I mean, I can tell you, living here in Germany, I mean, my wife's family, I mean, it was actually pretty crazy. About 3 months ago, I, for some reason, decided to take upon the task to find her uncle who was drafted up into the army. He was literally torn while crying at the age of 14, torn from the arms of his parents, and put in his own home, and then sent off to the Hitler Youth. And by the time he was 16, he was buried somewhere in Ukraine, in a mass grave. And I actually ended up finding exactly the battle he fought and where he was killed and this sort of thing. It's very tragic and very sad. But I also got to talk to Jessica's aunt before she passed away, because she was in her teens during that whole episode in the run up to World War II. And they all, they generally, Hitler was doing everything which you just described, Ross. They all kind of liked it. He was giving a bunch of free shit away and redistributing everything. I mean, he was a tried and true socialist.
Yeah, you couldn't speak out. You couldn't speak out badly about the government. You couldn't speak badly about the German people. You could only speak badly about other people. We could limit speech. Guys, I have to break in here because we have a breaking piece of news, and I don't know how this is going to change the national conversation. We're going to have to discuss this a little bit. They have just released the autopsy of George Floyd from Minnesota. He did not die of strangulation or asphyxiation.
It's a heart attack.
He died of a heart attack due to toxicants in his body during the time of his death, is what the official report from the DA or from the coroner in Minneapolis is coming out right now.
I mean, my thoughts on that is the coroner's racist.
Well, my thoughts on it is this coroner cooking the books? Because you saw what the police report said. The police report didn't mention anything about, holding him down for 9 minutes, bleeding out of the nose, anything of that nature. So is this the local government trying to cover their ass again? They've already been caught covering their ass once. I wouldn't put it past them trying to cover their ass a second time.
Yeah, I think they're going to go to court and try him, and the defense is going to say, well, he didn't even die of strangulation. He didn't have his knee on his neck that hard, and he'll get acquitted.
I think the jury of 12 is not going to allow that to happen. There's too much publicity. There's too much news around this. Rodney King is still too fresh in our minds. This cop is going to get charged with something, and it's going to stick, and he's going to go to jail.
All right.
Don't know for what yet, but he's going to go to jail for something.
I'll raise you 7 years in China. This cop spent 7 years in China. He's a mole. He's a double agent. It was staged, and he's not going to do a day.
Well, you heard that he has already been killed 2 other people, and the person who let him off on those 2 people is currently one of the main vice presidential candidates. Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah, Amy Klobuchar, yeah. Poll actually unveiled this. I don't know if anybody realized this, but he was doing porn as well. I mean, this is kind of like an innocuous side detail. It's not really pertinent to this, but yeah, he's apparently been doing porn for a long time.
Well, don't most of us?
Well, yeah, but we don't post it on the internet.
Nope.
Nor do we get paid for it.
Oh, he was getting paid? That's different.
No, he was doing paid porn. It wasn't like sex tapes released. He was doing paid porn.
This is where these conversations always go to with Luke. Every week, this is how the conversation goes.
We always end up at porn.
I'm a married man.
In Luke's defense, that was on Brandon, not Luke.
But Luke's every week with Luke. Every time we have a conversation with Luke, it goes to something about porn.
All right. Well,
the internet is for porn.
I have immunity.
Porn.
I have immunity when my sister's on the stream. Okay, so it's not for nefarious purposes.
On behalf of our entire family, ew.
All right. So Shayna and John have not talked at all in the last probably 30 minutes. So either one of you, please bring up a topic and we'll go from there.
It's because of me and Ross. Let's be honest.
You knew what you were getting into when you got.
Okay. Ross and Luke, you're on a 5 minute hiatus. And then Ron, y'all go ahead.
I did see Brandon's debate, and it was good. Yeah, I was kind of confused as to what the other guy's actual political position was. He was an anarchist, but he was also a socialist.
Yeah, he's confused too.
Is he expecting it just to form or something? Or?
He's like an edgy Democrat. Like he would fit in fine in a room of leftards and liberal retard Democrats, and they would just be like, he's a little edgy. He thinks that big corporations are bad.
Yeah.
But other than that, cuck feminist, all that nonsense.
We've got some more breaking news coming out regarding this. It has come out that George Floyd and the fired officer worked at the same nightclub together.
So they had a beef?
Well, I read more into that when that came out, because I read that a couple hours ago, and apparently the police officer was moonlighting on the inside of the club, and then George Floyd was a bouncer on the outside of the club, and the question was, had they ever met before? Because even the bar owner was I had so many security guards on any given night that a lot of them didn't really even know of the other's existence. So I think there's more. If they do know each other, I think there's more to come out about that. But when everybody's writing about asphyxiation and blah blah blah, I was like, wait, he didn't die on the scene. He died later, right?
No, he died on the scene.
Oh, he did die on the scene?
They attempted to revive him on the way to the hospital, but they were never able to do so.
in that case, the coroner's report is going to mean absolutely nothing. Nobody's going to care. I mean, as far as everybody is concerned, it was asphyxiation, and that's all there is going to be to it. I mean, so, my whole issue with this was, all right, let's put racism aside. Let's put aside the fact that everybody thinks the cops are all racist. We have to acknowledge that pinning somebody down like that for fraud and using a fake $20 bill, to me, seemed extreme. And I'm wondering what else is out there that we don't know in terms of why they felt the need to do that. So I am very much in favor of not rushing to judgment. I mean, everybody's outraged, and he absolutely needed to be arrested immediately. And I'm like, I don't understand, how you can arrest someone when you haven't exposed the facts of, what actually happened, and is there a need to be arrested? So,
I mean, forgive me if y'all spoke about this while I was away just now, but apparently, so Kyle, right before I had to step away for a second, but you were talking about how they had worked together at the same nightclub. I read that article, and the nightclub owner made a statement that this particular police officer was very trigger happy. That anytime anything happened, the police officer to whom this whole thing references would just start pepper spraying people. She said he was a very trigger happy police officer, and that this accords with a pattern of behavior which she observed while he worked as a security officer for her. So I don't know. I agree with Shayna. It seems like an overreaction, unless there's something we don't know. Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
I think they'll have a judge try it because they won't be able to find an impartial jury because there will be too much information in the press about it. So I think they'll acquit him.
Well, if that's a Keith Ellison appointed judge, good luck to them all.
Yeah. Now, what I would like to see instead of the damn riots is they ought to go occupy the legislature. They ought to do a sit-in at the legislature for 25 days and say, we're not going anywhere until he gets a trial for murder. But they got to burn shit and take stereos.
So he has been charged. He has been apprehended. He is in custody. He's been charged with murder. He's been charged murder 3, which I don't think will stick because, they have to prove intent. I don't think you can prove intent here. But they also have a manslaughter charge that I think they can make stick because manslaughter only means that you created the conditions in which the death occurred. You didn't need intent for manslaughter to stick. So I do for once, it doesn't seem as if they've overcharged. It seems like because a lot of cases get kicked because it's overcharged. They go for too high of the Zimmerman case. Zimmerman probably gets convicted on a manslaughter case. But because they went for murder 2, it gets tossed.
You can't flim-flam the zim-zam. That's a meme on Bull.
So, yeah, I mean, guys, Twitter's been fun today. It's been a great Twitter day. I've made lots of enemies on Twitter today. I've loved every moment of it. But there's just a few things we have to address. Number one is protest is perfectly fine, but protesting doesn't give you the right to harm somebody else's property or to burn their shit. That's simply not the truth. Protesting does not cover you there. That is not legal protesting. That's not lawful protesting. Number 2, if you heard the president say thugs and the first thing you thought of and equated to was all black men, you are the racist in that situation, not the president, okay? And then number 3, the only thing burning all these buildings does, and Colin and I talked about this last night, is it hurts your community. And most of the people that are in this community setting fires, they probably don't live there. They're probably, like in Ferguson, we saw people coming from way far away because they were opportunistic and coming in because they knew they'd get a chance to steal some shit.
Yeah, they probably commuted in, used some public transportation, probably going to deduct that from their taxes, their train ticket.
Did y'all see the Target video of the Target being looted?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the guy loading up like 7 TVs.
Yeah. Well, no, I was paying attention to the overweight white female running away with blankets and a lamp. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Karen on full display.
Yeah. So when I hear thug, I think of an overweight white female.
yeah, running away with crochet
Yeah.
supplies. You know, she's
Running
like,
away
I'm thinking of that lady in
I'm not-
New,
I don't- she's
I'm thinking
like,
of that lady in New York.
I've already got them. I'm grabbing these mum supplies for homecoming.
So I posted a video like 17 times today of President Obama during the Baltimore riots, saying that they were criminals and thugs. And I said, wait, why was it not racist when President Obama said it? He called them thugs. He said they were criminals. He said this was counterproductive to riot. Why is President Obama fine, but President Trump meant it racistly? Like, how does that work out? John, I want to hear from you on this. Not Kyle. Shut up, Kyle.
Well, because it's just an easy clickbait. Like, I mean, that's one reason. It's just that it's a simple, easy clickbait. And since Trump is white, then obviously he can be a racist. Because black people can't be a racist, right? So,
Right. There has to be
yeah,
an inherent
I mean, like,
power structure there to be racist.
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, Obama was the first black president, so it's just easy
Bill Clinton,
clickbait.
man. Remember, you don't have to be black anymore. Because Joe Biden told us
That's true.
you only have to be, the only thing that requires you to be black is that you're willing to vote for Joe Biden. And because Bill Clinton's going to vote for Joe Biden, that makes him black. So Bill Clinton is, again, the first black president.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Joe Biden is going to beat Joe Biden. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
In his
I
run
can't wait
for the Senate.
debate.
I saw a funny video on Twitter this week. This guy posted he was a black guy. He's wearing like a "Make America Great Again" hat and whatever. And so he was like, "Well, I got this letter from Joe Biden campaign. I don't know what it is." And so he's like opens this envelope and he like pulls out. He's like, "Oh, this is fantastic!" And he turns around and puts it up to the camera, and it says "white card."
Yeah, Damani Felder, who Kyle and I have had on the show, posted, he's like, please bear with me in this time of transition. I'm currently looking for my new home. Bear with me while I explore the different races and the advantages of each or another one until I find which one I would like to accommodate into. I was like, oh, that's perfect.
That's great, dude. It's just so funny, man. It's like seeing their house like burn down and collapse under all of their bad premises and bad ideas and bad philosophy. It's just all crumbling right now.
It's only a matter of time if they make this the thing where you have to use people's pronouns, their chosen pronoun. If they make that a law, then people are going to choose pronouns that are fun, lots of fun. And people are going to have to call me Massa. Because that's my pronoun, Massa. And they're going to say, yes, Massa.
I'm actually for that. When I started learning German and realizing how everything is gendered, like everything, like the word "the," there's like 126 different ways to say the word "the" in the German language, depending on if a noun is masculine, feminine, neuter, depending on if you're using it accusative, genitive, infinitive, dative. Like everything changes every sentence depending on how you're using everything. I was like, that's it. I'm gender pronoun neutral now. That's it. I'm for that.
Protesters are currently defacing CNN's headquarters in Atlanta over the over this riot.
Nice.
Maybe Hegel was right. Contradictions are everywhere.
Yeah.
That the contradiction cult is a perfect way to destroy civilization and just tell people, you know, when you, as a logical person, you point out a contradiction someone has and they say, yeah, of course, contradictions are everywhere. And then they just go about their business and they don't care about what you said. If contradictions don't matter, then you don't have to worry about it, no matter what's going on.
Yep. All right. Well, okay, so I know Ross and Kyle both have to leave. They've done the work in hosting this stream. They are.
I'm hosting the meeting. You're hosting the stream.
Oh wow!
So-
You critical link.
So he was politically
Kyle-
correct in saying
Kyle, this is a social stream. Okay, we all did it together. Okay.
we're all in this together.
Okay, let me click this end stream button over here.
If I hit end meeting, it's the same fucking thing.
Okay. So yes, I do have to get going. The wife needs me to do some things on a Friday night. So, gentlemen and lady, it was a pleasure to join you all, and hopefully you'll have some good conversation from here on. John, sorry we didn't get to hear much from you. Kyle just won't shut up.
That's all right.
I try so hard on Mondays and Thursdays to get him to shut up for just a moment so I can talk, but
I was gonna say the way to say it correctly is lady and gentlemen, but you know, you do you, boo boo.
I had to remember what was happening there.
If I leave and you leave, who ends the stream?
Luke,
can you end the stream?
I am the stream Highlander.
Okay, I'm just not sure if I leave the call, if the call is not just going to go away.
No,
I think it's probably going to go away, and I think we should probably just end the stream. We're at an hour now, anyways. So
well, let's see. This will be a YouTube crash course, real quick, Kyle. Because it's a yeah. See, he just left the meeting. The meeting is still open.
Okay, so what happens? How do we end the stream, though?
You will go on YouTube and click in stream in the YouTube studio.
Oh, I have to do something. God damn it!
Oh God, poor Brett. Oh no! All right, everybody, have a good night. Enjoy talking with you.
I'll take care of ending the stream. Take care, Russ.
Bye.
Later. All right, so it's just the four of us now.
Nice.
Now I have to log in. I got to do something. 1:30 in the morning here. Okay, that's fine.
I just think I'm going to refer to Kyle and Ross's pronouns now as they, both of them.
Yeah, perfectly fine. Just say they. Yeah. Jessica and I joke all the time because we watched this Vice documentary one time. It was an American guy living in Sweden who was like raising this gender-neutral child. And they, I guess in Swedish, the gender-neutral pronoun is hen. So
Hen?
Yeah, so Jessica and I always joke around. We're like, my preferred pronoun is hen. And
You sexist.
yeah.
It's weird is that weird that it's a female chicken? Is the new gender?
Yeah, I know that already seems sexist, right? And some sort of like, what is the word like speciesist or something like?
Well, what are you mad about contradictions or something?
Yeah. So what do you want to talk about? It's just four of us. John, man, I want to hear from you. What's on your mind?
I don't have
Something.
any topic. I don't have any topic that specific. I am interested in hearing. Like, is there any new information about the mod?
Arbery?
Yeah.
I don't know. They've already moved on. It's on a different case. I don't know. I actually thought about that. I'm gonna look into it before HSP tomorrow so we can talk about it. But I haven't heard anything. I think they've already moved on to something else, something far better in their eyes.
The same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really have any topics to propose.
Brandon, I want to ask you, dude, what are your thoughts on that debate? Like, was there anything you felt you left off the table, or that you like? Like, when I talk to somebody, I always, in my own head, I do a post-mortem. Every time I talk to somebody, especially when it comes to ideas like this, I do a post-mortem, and I'm like, damn, I could have approached that this way. I could have said this. I could have done it that way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
They didn't grasp what I was saying about gold, and I don't talk about it a lot. I'm not into economics, and it's not a big thing, so I didn't really have the vocabulary and all the instances on the tip of my tongue to explain it. So if I could do it again, I would explain to them probably quicker and easier and better why gold is the basis of money. I think I got the point across. I don't know. But like, they didn't understand. Like, the price of gold went up over time, so that means it's getting more valuable, right? And I said, no,
Yeah.
that's a chart of the value of the dollar dropping. That's what that chart says. It doesn't say that gold increases in value. It says the dollar drops in value. I think I did as good as I could without having pre-prepared a bunch of arguments about it. What do you think?
Yeah.
What was a soft spot that I fumbled on and could have done better?
Well, it was interesting. God, right out of the gate, y'all got into something, and I was like, I would have approached that differently, but I don't know that it was better. What was the first topic that y'all discussed?
Oh,
Do you remember?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. Y'all you came out of the gate swinging basically, and there was I was a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pause and
The
I'll think
first thing
about,
they did was they talked about what his standard was.
Where
Because
values come from, yeah.
Because Brandon was pointing out that if like the individual's own life isn't your standard of value, then what's your standard? So that we have a starting point.
yeah.
But
I
don't
was thinking.
remember-
Yeah, okay, now I remember. Yeah, I was thinking when you said that, Brandon, I would have probably, me personally, I'm not saying this is the better way, this is the right way. I would have gone a more Socratic method. I would have then asked questions and drill down on why he was saying that. You took a more like lightning bolt approach and just like jumped to the root of it. Which is very like Peikoff style.
Do you recall his response though? After I asked, "What's your standard of value?" He said something like, "People start off with that standard, but then they very quickly go to something else or whatever." And he just went off on this imaginary thing, basically saying, "We can't have a standard because people have different thoughts."
Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's the standard response.
Yeah.
You know, they say, well, you start off selfish. I mean, this is like so classic. You know, you go through this age when you're 16, 17, and then you grow out of it. You know, you become sophisticated and realize that that's just selfish, you know, and you grow out of that. And it's like, well, no, you kind of go through life doing the things that you hope to be doing, you know, and to the extent that you adhere to that, is the extent to which you are happy and live a great life. Yeah. You took a very like Peikoff approach, which is like lightning bolt, cutting straight to it. I like to tease it out a little bit. Maybe that's like my sort of. I like to. I don't know, and this is like part of my. This is something I'm trying to like shuck, like get away from. It's like I like to see them suffer and squirm, and so I want to do the Socratic method and illustrate that they have absolutely no idea what the fuck they're talking about, and then go with a lightning bolt approach. But I don't know. I it's like I have this like it's like a magnifying glass and ant sort of approach that I have a tendency, and I learned that in San Francisco. It's like once I figured out how to do that, then I would do it for fun, like in San Francisco. Because it was just so easy, and I just dialed it down into a science, and it was, I don't know, it was just fun.
Well, maybe we should reach out to them and have them come interview you or something. Maybe you should reach out to them and talk to them. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be fun.
Honestly, I think people. Here's the thing. This is another thing I learned in San Francisco. Is that like most people are a complete waste of time. Most people are intellectually dishonest. So I have like two prerequisites before I'll engage with somebody intellectually at this point. I used to do it just anybody, whatever. I think I said this on a stream, but I think it was on a video I did with you, Brandon. But I would take like Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, or like Atlas Shrugged, or like some controversial book. I would go to a bar and then sit at the bar and start reading until somebody would sit next to me and go, "What are you reading?" And then I would show them, and then they would immediately get triggered and then engage in a debate. You know, I would do that on purpose, like every night of the week for like 2 years.
I used to traipse around the college campus putting up flyers everywhere. I used to spend hours doing it. I would put flyers all over the campus that would say all kinds of provocative things, and then at the bottom would say, "Meet at the coffee house on Tuesday, 5 p.m."
I mean, dude, it's a great way to like hone your craft, like hone your skills, and like do all your. It's like MMA, you know. It's like fighting, you know. It's like all your flaws get exposed when you're in the ring. You know what I mean? So it's like a really good way to hone your thinking, because you go home like, man, damn, I didn't see that coming. Like, how do I deal with that? Maybe I'm wrong, you know. It's really tough to deal with. But no, I mean, so I have two prerequisites. One of them is like they have to be intellectually honest. If they're not intellectually honest, then I have to have an ulterior motive. Like this has to be in a debate on a stage in front of 500 people, and it's like streaming to thousands, so it's more of like an open letter format. Or if they are intellectually or if they are intellectually honest, then I have like a second sort of premise, which is like, how well do I trust this person? And if I trust them a lot, and to the extent that I trust them as a person with whom I'm speaking, is the extent to which I will engage intellectually. So if I don't know them that well, but I think they're intellectually honest, I'll sort of see kind of where they are and push the boundary. But I'm not going to just go. And I used to do this again, and I alienated a lot of people. It was like, sort of like the Jehovah's Witness approach. I was like, meet somebody. It's like, do you have a moment to talk about Ayn Rand? It's like some people just don't care about that shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, kind of gotta, you have to feel it out. You have to figure out, are they intellectually honest? If yes, then okay, cool. Like, let's see how passionate about ideas they are, and I don't push them too hard. I don't pull them too hard. I just kind of just have a casual conversation. If they're really interested in ideas, then like cool, then we can go there.
Yeah, pretty few and far between.
Those guys, I don't view them as being intellect. I mean, if you've made your way to anarcho-capitalism, or in their case, something even worse, which is like some obscure, ambiguous form of anarcho-socialism, then they're at that point so rationalistic. I cannot fathom saving them. I think they are beyond saving.
Yeah, I think they're corrupt, probably. I mean, they're going on and on about all the people in America that go to bed hungry every night. It's like, are you serious? Americans that are hungry?
During that bit, I was like, what is intermittent fasting?
Right? All I had was a can of beans yesterday, and
he's like 30. I don't remember the percentage. He's like 37% of the population only has 2 meals a day. I was like, I have 2 meals a day by design. Like,
had 5 snacks.
Well, and then the one thing that he said was, if capitalism is the best way to redistribute resources, then no one would be fat, like, or no one would be obese, because it would all be resource writers. I don't know what the thinking was there, but that made no sense to me.
Yeah, he's saying if capitalism is good at allocating resources, then people shouldn't be overweight. Everyone should be healthy. But it's not good at allocating resources. And I said, that's not the point. Allocating resources is the point. The point of freedom is to get you out of my fucking face. That's the point of freedom. It's not to make everybody do things your way. It's to get you out of my face. That's the point of freedom.
Yeah, they're falling into this Platonian trap where there's this other perfect world where free markets correct everything, and everybody has a six-pack, and everybody eats the perfect amount, and nobody's poor. It's
everyone's born in a test tube.
Yeah, exactly. It's this like Platonian other universe, and
everyone has 2 mommies and a Volkswagen.
Yeah, exactly. So like it totally negates the whole concept of free will as such. It negates the idea that you have to make choices, and these anarchists are just totally devoid of an understanding of philosophy entirely,
and extremely ignorant not only of philosophy but of basic historical facts. And they've just bought the most canned narratives right out of public school. They just buy it hook, line, and sinker with no thought of their own. And
what makes them so dangerous is the extent to which they are so passionate about these ideas. It's like, if you've got a liberal who's kind of just liberal and whatever, I vote left, but whatever. Like, I would take that over a passionate anarcho-capitalist.
Well, it's like they've got a little bit of knowledge because they've noticed how powerful free economics or how powerful the free market is, and they want to use that as a tool for their own little fantasies. And like Voltaire said, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. They have just enough knowledge to know that the free markets are powerful, but they don't care why. They don't know the history of individualism or free thought.
Yeah. Shayna.
I'm thinking about bringing We the Living to my book club.
Oh God, you better bring a lot of wine with you if you do
Oh,
that.
there's a lot of wine. There's a lot of wine.
What kind of stuff do y'all normally read?
I want to hear you explain this and why you're doing this and so forth. But I have a really funny story about a book club. So in San Francisco, I got really annoyed. So I lived in this small studio. It's like a 300 square foot studio. It was basically so small. I had a queen bed, a desk, a couch, a kitchen that could fit one person, and a bathroom and a shower. And it was so small that there was no standing room. It was just, you just walked through, it was walking lanes. That was it. And, but I shared this big badass patio with this girl with whom I worked, and hers was set up was the same. And so, like one day, on like a Thursday afternoon after work, I'm like going outside to barbecue because that's what I do, and I hear all this yakking and cackling, and and I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And we shared the porch, but there was like a little pseudo fence. It was like a 5 foot tall half fence, and she had to walk through my patio to get to hers. So like it was basically one patio with like a little fence that kind of separated the two, but not really. It was like 4 foot of fence and 4 foot of gap. And so I was like, what the hell's going on over there? So I go there, and there's all these girls like sitting around drinking wine. I was like, what's up? She was like, oh, it's our book club. It's our book club. And I was like, okay. So I was like, I was like, okay, well, I can't barbecue because all your hair is going to smell like, wood for the next 3 days. So I was like, okay, I guess. So I went and got oysters or something. Anyway, so the next day I sent her an Outlook calendar invite at work. And it was for Cook Club, which was the same Thursday that she was having book club. And she was like, what the hell? What is this? And I was like, I'm having Cook Club on Thursday, this date. She's like, you have Cook Club? I'm having book club. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to barbecue on this Thursday. She was like, you can't do that. And I was like, I'm sending you a calendar invite to let you know as a courtesy. She's like, you can't do that. And I was like, okay, you don't read any of the books, all right? Like, this is an excuse for you to sit around, drink wine, and yak, and pretend like you actually read the book. Like, most of you probably read the introduction, maybe the foreword, and the ambitious of the group probably read the first 2 to 3 chapters. Okay, so, like, let's not pretend that this is a book club. She was like, well, yeah, you're right, but you can't do that. That's my understanding of female book clubs.
Well, I mean, we actually do read. Like, the majority of us will read the book, and there will be a, 20-minute discussion about the book, and then the rest of the 4 hours is drinking wine.
There we go. Okay, so We the Living. So what's going to happen when you try to discuss introducing We the Living?
I don't know, because there's some big-time libs in that club. I mean, somebody brought Michelle Obama's book one time. I was like, no, that's a hard pass for me. It's a hard limit. So, anyways, but you're supposed to bring, 2 or 3 books and then you share, the topic, you give a little synopsis of all of them, and then we vote. So I'm like, I could totally bring it. But what would be so funny is I would just say the title, and I wouldn't say anything about the author, and then I would just describe the premise of the book, and then say, given COVID and all the stuff we're going through right now, this would be super interesting to learn about what it looks like when the government overreaches, and it'd be really interesting to see if they actually voted on it.
Shit, they'd be like, well, okay, I'll read it, but only if I'm wearing a mask.
Well, so we had to skip, I think, our March. It was either our March or our April meeting. Maybe it may have been both, actually. And then the next time we got together, we were like, let's get together at the pavilion in our neighborhood, which is outdoors. It's covered, but there's lots of couches and all that. And well, only if we sit around the perimeter of the pavilion. We're not gonna. And so we were like, okay. So half of us, the half that don't give a shit, we showed up a little bit early and we all ordered our food and we're having dinner together at a table really close to each other. And then everybody else showed up later and they're like, Excuse me, I've got my mask. I thought we were sitting like far away from each other, so I'm gonna go sit in the corner over here. And we're like, oh, okay.
Y'all are like, we're in group quarantine now.
It was like, yeah. Anyways, but
Well, that's a good premise. So yeah, Brandon, I mean, and actually John as well, I should say. I remember, Shane, I still remember when you were in high school. I remember like walking, Shane is 4 years older than me. And I remember like walking by her bedroom reading these enormous books. And I was like, what the hell is she reading? And it was Fountainhead and it was Atlas Shrugged. When you were, I don't remember how old you read them when you were like 16, 17?
I read Fountainhead, yeah, probably when I was that young. And then I didn't find Atlas Shrugged until probably my senior year in high school. And then I read it like, I don't know, I think it was on my third or fourth reading by the time I was a sophomore or junior in college.
You read it 3 times?
Yeah, of that one book, Atlas Shrugged, within a period of 5 years.
Wow.
And then I gave it to Chad, my husband, and I was like, you have got to read this book. And Chad is a very, very fast reader, and so he literally read it in like a week, and he was like, that was incredible. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you gifted me a copy of Atlas Shrugged, and I read the first 75 pages and didn't read the rest until like 3 years later.
Yeah. I know, I was obsessed with that book for sure. And We the Living is not... We the Living, I would choose that one because in the environment we're in right now, I feel like it would be really applicable. And it's short. And so our book clubs are a month apart. So giving them Atlas Shrugged to read over the course of a month would be a real challenge. There would be no discussion at the meeting. But We the Living is a quick read. So that's one of the ones I was thinking of bringing for consideration.
Yeah. We the Living is good. The one book I haven't read from Rand is Anthem, and I really want to read it because like
that would be quicker. That's a short one. You would finish that one in a day.
Yeah, I haven't read Anthem.
2 hours on audio.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would really redound to my experience in the Corps of Cadets. Because like the Corps of Cadets,
Collective, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, when you're in the Corps, like you're not allowed to have a first name. You're not allowed to love anything but your mother. You're not allowed to show emotion. You're not allowed to have emotions. You're not allowed to have an identity. You are completely, and in every respect, collectivized, systematically, over the course of 9 months. And frankly, for me, it was very destructive. I was a very like healthy, psychologically healthy individual, and when I went through that experience, that completely destroyed any sense of identity that I had. And it took me years, and in fact it was like finding objectivism that allowed me to sort of rediscover some sense of identity, which happened years later. And I think that Anthem really describes that sort of that process, that sort of mentality. But I haven't read it. I mean, I've just got so much other stuff that I'm reading right now, but that's one that I really want to shortlist for sure.
You'd finish that one in a couple hours. It'd be easy.
Yeah. Like a book that I can finish in, like I finished like a 400-page book in 2.5 days. Actually, I finished, Brandon, I was telling you about this. I finished a 450-page book in 2.5 days, in between making cold calls.
Nice.
I would like dial the phone and then look at my script, and if they answered, I would like sell, and then while I was waiting for the next call to dial, I would read again. And I finished a 450-page book in 2.5 days doing that.
It's amazing how much time we waste.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have done that any old time.
Yeah, for sure. So, John, you just messaged me. You got to get going?
Yeah, I'm going to get going. So.
All right, cool, man.
All right.
I'm going to get back to you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, it's 2 a.m. here, so I got to get to bed soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for
you. Yeah, thanks for joining, Brandon. Thank you so much, John. Shayna, thank you for jumping on. And, maybe we'll do this again next week.
Sounds good.
You know where to find me.